We're here at Netroots Nation 13, and it's my opportunity here to interview one of the recipients of the Community Quilt. Can I ask you to tell us a bit about what the quilt means to you?
Well, my name is cskendrick. I'm known by the highly secretive name of cskendrick at Daily Kos. The quilt, when it came, was a reminder that there was a world waiting for me, and it was a physical sign of what my wife, Mary, had already told me, that many people online had sent their best wishes and their concerns, and that they had even formed the modern-day version of a concern circle, a Facebook group, to receive the updates. And there were most of the folk there were Daily Kos people. I mean, I suppose a lot of it goes back to the nature of why I received one in the first place. My case was, it was simple strep throat that took a very, very ugly turn, and then an even worse turn. I almost died of it. And in order to save my life, the doctors at the hospital had put me into a coma, medical sedation. So for me, it was coming awake after close to 5 weeks of being in care, and then being told, and then forget it, and then told again, and then forget it, and then a third time it really stuck that I had been very, very sick for a very long time, that I had undergone numerous surgeries to excise infected tissue because of the type of strep I had. It had gone into all sorts of places in my chest cavity. So for me, prior to that, I had been someone who was, very, albeit maybe a touch on the plump side. I had always been very healthy. I could run, and suddenly this was taken away, and it leaves you feeling very helpless, especially when you wake up and you lack the strength. I lack the strength to even lift my arm up, and for me, like some of the messages on here, Daily Kos becomes something more than even a community. It becomes a type of family, or as one of my fellow Cossacks, who goes by the name Stormy, said, "These are my peeps." And they are. And I can point to any of a number of these things. They're expressions not just of the get well soon variety, but please come back, we need you. Please, our love and prayers are with you. Or for folks who are of a different persuasion, our love and sincere thoughts. And it's that reminder that we, in many ways online, we're alone as we sit there pecking away nowadays on our phones and our pads, as well as our laptops and our PCs. We're alone in our thoughts, alone in our concerns, but it's always a nice reminder, not just for the occasional conventions that we have here, but signs such as these, in the smaller daily ones, that we aren't alone. We're part of carrying a good story, a good progressive story forward into the rest of American history. And it's not done yet. And to invoke just a series of the great thoughts and keystones within the arch that holds up the whole of our civilization together would be, that there are truths that are self-evident, life, liberty, pursuit to happiness, that so long as we strive it, that strive for that true birth of freedom, that government of, by, and for the people shall not perish from this earth, and last but not the greatest, in the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., how long do we have to wait to really put that last keystone in the arch and it be complete? The answer is not long, because the arc of the moral universe arches ever towards justice. And I don't know, maybe in a very high-minded way that sums up the feeling, is that we're in a common cause. We are, as Stormy says, we are peeps. And for me to receive this quilt was, fairly weighty. It was, I was moved. Even still, just reading these earlier, when we asked me to do so, I was moving to tears, even just reading through them. And these were messages I had read and read and read again. But again, I think that's the sum of it, is we're not alone in this. We're not alone behind our pads and our phones. We are we're not just lonely voices wondering shrilly when are we going to be done talking. It's the talk itself that moves an important inspirational story forward. And even if none of the above, none of us are on the levels of the Thomas Jeffersons and the Abraham Lincolns and the Martin Luther King Jr.'s of the world, maybe we can't aspire, but we can be inspired. But
Is there any particular quilt messages you'd like to share with us?
they're like possibly, I don't even know what the total number of spaces are. There might be hundreds here. Maybe because this is someone who turns out to actually be a distant relative. It's from No Weasels, who is a very famous person in our little world. Hugs and love and health, dearest cousin. I am so grateful to have you in my life. Or, this is a shorter one. And this is kind of an inside joke, is from Cath 25. Here's to never getting smaller in the distance, which is the notion of, as people, lives part away as they fade over the horizon. Okay, this is from someone who named Gloriana, who lives in Pasadena, which is infamous for its parrots. The parrots are calling for you, Chris. Much love and get well soon. And it goes on. There's tons of these types of messages.
What about the graphics? Are there any of the graphics here that the pictures and the pattern selection that appeals to you?
This is what I would think of would be the underlining of the quilt. It's very distinctive. I like it. It's very pretty. It sort of reminds me of ocean and stars at the same time. There's coffee, which is incredibly important. There's some peace symbols. There's bears, which would be, I would have to guess Mary must have said something about that, because this is kind of, a very, very manly toolkit. I don't do tools at all. Pretzels, chocolate pretzels, what's not to like? Apples, that's like a good health icon. Music, guitars. I love music. I compose, but no one's in danger of paying me for it. It's signs of health. And taking a step back, I could see a lot of the iconography would be, or however you're supposed to say that word, would be generic. Signs of the context of love, health, life. Activity. But for me, I think perhaps it was truly the messages and the effort to gather these messages. I do know that Sara and that they take great pains to find these messages and gather them together, so that really infuses the gifts with a lot of spirit. And I'm very and the gesture is definitely well executed.
Would you like to thank anybody?
In particular? Well, certainly I would love to thank the love to thank the manufacturers of the quilt. And within the Daily Kos community, wow. It's such an immense list. I think my own tightest community would easily be the top comments team, which is sort of a family within itself. We're the ones who the last X number of years, we put together nightly lists of the top comments, and that involves making our own selves not just dilettantes and perusers of the commentary, but it forces us to read more and be more involved. And it also, we tell each other these deep stories, and we become invested in, keeping that regular series promoted. So that would include, probably among my best friends in the Kos community would probably be like, say, Mike and Brillig, and then other names which are less active would be like, say, Crone Sense and No Weasels. Who else? Some on the more political side, obviously Kath, Lawrence Lewis, Blue Armadillo. It's just a host of other names. I'm ashamed that I would literally run out of time. You would run out of electronic tape before I ran out of names to thank. And I'm mentioning names I know that names I perused as I was looking for things to read. So that's, if you're not on that, anyone who hears this and gets miffed, that's why.
Well, thank you very much.
My pleasure, Lily.